So there's been loads of talk around the Renters Reform Bill that is currently in government trying to be passed through to become law. But in this video, I'm going to cover 3 things that you probably didn't know about the Renters Reform Bill. Let's jump in. Okay, so one of the things that you probably didn't know about the Renters Reform Bill is there's going to be a landlord database and tenant database. So it's a place where you have landlords' contact details, tenants can go on and search for property. I expect it'll include if they're good landlords, and there'll be like a review system, most probably. Good tenants, good landlords, bad landlords. But it's a place where you're going to have property condition reports, rent history, all that kind of stuff. And I think that's a really good thing to have that kind of centralized database of tenant and landlord data. What maybe isn't so good is that what's going to pay for that is another levy on landlords. So landlords are being stung every which way at the minute. Taxation, legislation, and potentially a new levy. So that is probably not going to be taken very kindly from landlords, but we'll see how the bill progresses as to whether that becomes the norm. So reason number 2, the bill hopes to bring in a decent home standard. Now I'm all for this because there are a lot of unscrupulous, as they call slum landlords out there, where there's so much demand, landlords can get away with not maintaining their properties very well. Tenants are scared to say anything because if they get kicked out, then they've got nowhere else to go. So this whole new decent home standards, I think, would be a really good thing for industry. We're extremely strict. We turn away a lot of properties if the landlord's not prepared to invest in the condition to bring them up to a certain standard. So it's I think it's so important that there's a minimum standard that you're allowed to rent a property out. There's been a bit around that with the EPC and the rating of C, I think it is from 2025, currently a D. You can't rent anything out with anything less than a D rating. Now that's more for the cost to run the property, but this is going to be more on the standards and what every tenant should be able to expect as a minimum standard when renting. So I'm all for that. And the third thing is that they're talking about creating a new kind of landlord ombudsman where you no longer need to go to the courts and it takes months and months and months. So tenants can fast track complaints against landlords, but the same thing is that landlords can fast track complaints against tenants and evictions potentially. That's a whole other subject because the no-fault eviction is maybe being banned. So, but to have like a centralised court or governing body or ombudsman that can quickly handle these kind of disputes, I think is really important. Because there's so many situations out there right now where the tenant has been asked to leave and they happily want to leave, but the landlord has to serve them notice, obviously. Tenant can't find anywhere else to move to, so they have to go to the council. The councils, because they have so little property stock, they're saying we can't do anything until your landlord's taken you to court and legally evicted you. Even when you get the court order eviction, the councils aren't really doing much. They're having to wait for the bailiffs to come round and change the locks, and that could be 8-9 months of wasted time for landlords and tenants. We've got one of those happening right now. The landlord's lovely, the tenant's lovely, the tenant's still paying their rent happily, landlord's happy to help them move out, but we're just stuck in this red tape of just time and delay. So the Renters Reform Bill on the whole I think is going to be really, really good. There's going to be some benefits to landlords and also some negatives, same for tenants, but I'm all for clearing up the rental industry, making it better for tenants and landlords and easier and quicker and simpler to make sure that everyone is happy. There we go. There's 3 quick things that you may not have known about the Renters Reform Bill. Hope you found it helpful. If you need anything, contact any of our team. Would love to help whether you're a landlord or a tenant. Get in touch and we'll speak to you soon.